Welcome to Sipping Success, the ultimate podcast for all things beverage and alcohol. We are here to quench your thirst for insights, analysis, and a splash of entertainment. Get ready to dive into the world of beverages with us. From the latest trends to in-depth discussions with industry leaders, we've got it all covered. Whether you're a connoisseur or a curious sipper, Sipping Success is your go-to guide. Join us as we uncork knowledge, raise a glass to innovation, and help you elevate your brand to new heights. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and let's sip success together. Tune in to Sipping Success and drink in the wisdom. Cheers. This podcast is brought to you by Mushroom Media, the go-to digital media agency for all things marketing. From crafting captivating campaigns to decoding social media sorcery, Mushroom Media is here to empower your brand and help you scale. So whether you're brewing, distilling, or concocting the next big thing, Mushroom Media has a solution for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sipping Success podcast. I'm your host, Casey Haakinson. And this week, we're very excited to have Shane Lohman, president of Five Star Beverage Group. At Five Star Beverage Group, they specialize in transforming beverage companies from the ground up, providing these companies with strategies and insights needed to excel in an ever-increasing competitive market. Leveraging over a decade of unrivaled industry experience, they craft bespoke solutions that address the unique challenges and opportunities of their clients. And we'll look forward to getting into some of those specifics here in a second. But I want to thank you, Shane, for joining us, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of get into your background a little bit. I know you've been in beverage for quite a while. Walk us through your career, and then ultimately, what led you to starting up Five Star Beverage Group.
Yeah, so I got into the beverage industry pretty much right out of college. At 22, I decided to open my own retail beer store. We call them beer distributors here in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for about 5 or 6 years, and was kind of looking for more growth and to do something kind of to take it to the next level. So I sold that and opened an independent craft beer wholesaler in Pittsburgh. As craft beer took off, there wasn't there was a lot of new craft breweries, but there weren't new distributors to kind of handle and treat them in a different way. They were unique. And so we started an independent craft wholesaler, did that for 8 years, had that acquired a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, early this year in 2024. And that was a big win. And I would say it had been on my mind for the last year or two that I'd like to get into consulting at some point. That a lot of these breweries have great products and a great foundation, but just kind of need some foundational strategies and guidance to kind of take things to the next level. And it's I would say a crucial juncture in craft beer as it becomes more competitive. And, the breweries that kind of have their stuff together and lined up are going to be the ones that continue to drive growth and success. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Let's talk about specifically as a follow-up, let's talk about the craft beer market there for a second. It seemed like obviously that there were kind of the glory days of just all these wonderful breweries sprouting up. And how would you describe the market right now, other than obviously we know it's competitive and there's a lot of players out there, but what are some other things you would use to describe the market right now?
So yeah, it was obviously a hot and growing market. Craft beer was for, a number of years. I would say around COVID or the first year or so of COVID, it was still growing pretty steadily. And, it's matured to a point where it's, there's still some growth to be had, but it's a crowded market. And a lot of the breweries that were having success had that success almost despite themselves on a lot of levels. The market was hot, it was growing, people were opening breweries and just succeeding. And now that it's become more competitive, the ones that weren't quite sure maybe why they were having that success aren't sure now why they aren't continuing to have it. So, like I said, it's kind of a critical juncture in the industry, and it's it's exciting and energizing to be able to bring those tools to breweries because they want to succeed, but just giving them what they need.
Mm-hmm. And so this kind of, I guess, tees up the next question almost perfectly. Like, given how you entered and starting your own business out of college up through now, how have you like, share with any changes that you've had to adapt to over the years?
Yeah, I would say, the market obviously has grown and evolved. When I was in the retail space, the craft brands that people would get adventurous with were like Dogfish, Harpoon, Magic Cat.
Mm-hmm.
So they were craft brands, but not nearly the same animal that a lot of the craft brands today have become. And it's just, and I love Dogfish, great beer, but if you look at that brewery, and this is a huge compliment to them, they're almost closer to a macro brewery in terms of how they operate, as opposed to some of your local regional breweries.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use the term craft, I think it's just there's just different segments of it, but there's a lot of great beer, and I think the market has matured in a good way, just bringing strategies and processes to these breweries so that the market can continue to evolve.
Okay, that's really interesting. And can you speak to any of those specific processes or strategies, maybe pull one or two out that you seem to implement quite a bit with some of your clients?
Yeah, so I think the one that really sticks out to me would be, when craft beer 5, 6, 7 years ago, when the local regional breweries really started to get hot, they were just putting out different new products every week. Like when we started at Steel City, a great example would be like Evil Twin. They were a great brewery, but every month we were getting 8 to 10 new SKUs. And at that point in the market, people were buying them because they just wanted to try something new. And the trying something new fad or phase has kind of passed. And now it's critical for breweries to have foundation, core products, a good, effective brand plan. Like Bell's is a great example. They've always had it, but they have their core beers, the Bell's Two Hearted, Lighthearted. Then they have their seasonals, just so that people can know what to expect from your products. And it's not kind of something new or buckshot random every week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And really, what can people expect from your brand? Because like I said, consumers aren't necessarily looking for something new every week. They want to have reliable products. They still want to drink the products that those breweries are putting out, but just something that they can rely on.
Yeah, good point. And then within that, and we can even dive back even within your career. Can you share with us like a particular challenge or obstacle that you've overcome that you're proud of that really sticks out?
Yeah, I think at Steel City, ignorance is bliss. When we started it, I didn't know what I was getting into, but starting a wholesale distributor from scratch was probably a little bit more of a daunting challenge than I realized, just because you're going up against and competing with wholesalers that have been doing it, since Prohibition ended for 80, 90 years, and they've got tons of resources and massive brands. And so, yeah, I mean, just establishing yourself in those conditions was pretty daunting.
To dive a little deeper into that, did it just kind of take good old fashioned hard work and you just had to stay at it, put one foot in front of the other, or was there something along the way? Like you mentioned, there were businesses that have been open since Prohibition. So did you notice something that others weren't doing that you were able to grab some market share?
Yeah, I think just in the way that we serviced and gave priority to some of the craft brands. Some of the bigger wholesalers, whether they're Anheuser-Busch or Miller Coors, they're set up to, and they do it very well. They're set up to power those big brands. For a craft brand that's looking to sell 20,000, 30,000 cases in a market, they're just not set up to do that. So, tweaking the way that we operated and tailoring it to those craft breweries, it allowed us to take advantage of, a gap in the market and how those brands were being handled.
Okay, great. And so now kind of flipping a little bit more kind of toward the business, How currently right now, like how do you measure success? What's that look like for you?
I'd say the consulting has been a little bit more fulfilling and energizing in terms of when you're doing wholesale distribution, and it's still good, but you're there to service your brands. You're an extension of your brand in that market or your brands. Uh, with consulting, it's been really fulfilling to start to work with brands and give them strategies and help them build success. Because, like I said, as the market becomes more competitive, I think some of them start to get a little bit worried that maybe the success isn't possible any longer. But just sitting down with them, putting things in place, and working with them on a daily basis, and seeing that feeling of success and them knowing that they can do it. That's been fulfilling.
That's great. That's great. And so, how are you staying up to date on the latest trends and developments in the industry right now?
I think the big thing for me has been networking. Again, when I had the wholesale distributor, it was pretty. We were in Western Pennsylvania. It was pretty centric to that region. You never, other than dealing with your suppliers, you never dealt with anybody outside of that region.
Mm-hmm.
So just being pretty militant about the networking aspect of it, and that's helped a ton. And just staying in the market, staying in touch with people and staying out in the retail market. And we said this to our brands when I had the distributor, and I still say it to them now. You get the best feedback from just being in the market, talking to retail managers, talking to customers. That's the stuff that doesn't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing to read between there. You're getting the real dish. And share with us or discuss any partnerships or collaborations that you've formed that have really helped you.
Yeah, I think it's more generally just the relationships. Again, getting into consulting, they've been more two-way relationships and more fulfilling where, whether it's retail, you're there to, sell products for brands. And when you're doing wholesale, you're there to, service the brands. And I don't want to say one-way relationship, but it was a bit one way in both of those arenas. And getting into consulting, it's been more of a two-way relationship where, brands bring value to me, and obviously I bring value to them, and so there's no real specific partnerships, but just being involved in those relationships that are more two-way and bring value on both ends, I think has been great.
Okay, great. And for those of you out there, we have been talking with Shane Lohman, president of Five Star Beverage Group. It's been a really interesting conversation, kind of understanding Five Star in its consultancy to beverage brands. And we now go into kind of our last couple questions here for you, Shane. And the first one being, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I'd give it to my younger self. I still try and tell it to my current self, just patience.
Yeah.
The hard work and putting in the effort's never been an issue, but I think it can be a struggle when you're driven or you're striving for something. Obviously you're putting in a ton of effort and you want to see the results, and just not to get impatient, to stick with it, and to know that if you're putting in the work and executing at a high enough level, like, the results are going to come.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, couldn't have been better put there. And then last question in this kind of a two-part question. First part is, if anybody wants to interact with you online, could you share any socials that you're on and website address?
Yeah, so the website's just www.fivestarbeverage.com. We're pretty active on really all the social channels, but especially LinkedIn.
Okay.
And Instagram, where it's just, you search 5 Star Beverage. That's the Instagram handle, and that'll pop us up on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. And so we'll make sure to include those in the show notes as well at the bottom. And then if anybody out there, because there's we'll just kind of generally say a lot of hospitality professionals throughout this kind of broad industry, listen, if there's anybody out there that wants to reach out, that maybe has a question or wants to partner with you on anything, how would they best get a hold of you?
You can either find us on LinkedIn, like I said, at 5 Star Beverage Group, or even if you just send us an email, info@fivestarbeveraregroup.com. That's the best way, and we can get you set up. And even if it's just a quick consultation call for 10, 15 minutes, kind of get you rolling.
All right. Well, there you heard it. And Shane, I want to thank you for jumping on with us here this week. Shane Lohman, president of Five Star Beverage Group. We really thank you for coming on and giving us kind of deeper insight on your career and on Five Star. Best of luck to you out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Great. So did we. Well, thank you everybody for listening. You've been listening to another episode of the Sipping Success podcast. And I'm your host, Casey Haakinson. Until next time, thanks.
And that's a wrap on another insightful episode of Sipping Success, brought to you by Mushroom Media. We hope our discussions have left you thirsting for more knowledge in the world of beverages and alcohol. Stay connected with us on social media for updates. And remember, the journey to success is best enjoyed one sip at a time. Keep exploring trends, connecting with leaders, and scaling your brand. Until our glasses meet again, cheers to your continued success. And may your cups always runneth over with inspiration. We'll catch you in the next episode.